Have you ever watched someone get torn down in public, yet somehow their quiet strength makes the cruelty bounce off them like rain on stone? That's where this moment begins. The gallery floor gleams under track lighting as Alina Torres, 26, moves between clusters of champagne-sipping collectors, a silver tray balanced on her palm. Her dark hair is pulled into a tight bun, her crisp white shirt and black vest marking her as staff. She navigates the crowd with practiced efficiency, refilling glasses, clearing abandoned plates from pedestals near abstract paintings that sell for more than most people earn in a decade. This isn't her world, but tonight she's invisible within it, just another face serving the elite at Manhattan's most exclusive contemporary art opening. Alina isn't a server by trade. She's an art conservator and authenticator, just helping her college roommate Mia, who owns the catering company and desperately needed someone reliable tonight. Alina agreed immediately, trading her usual work restoring centuries-old paintings for this one evening of carrying trays. She's used to laboratories and climate-controlled vaults, not champagne service, but she's here because Mia gave her a place to crash when her student visa nearly expired 3 years ago. Loyalty runs deep. The gallery occupies a converted warehouse in Chelsea, all exposed brick and soaring ceilings, where New York's art world glitters under Edison bulbs. Collectors in designer suits murmur about investment potential while pretending to discuss aesthetics. Alina moves through them like water, noticing everything. The way a woman's eyes linger too long on a Rothko-inspired piece, the quick calculation in a man's expression as he checks his phone for auction estimates, the shift in energy when someone important enters. That's when she sees them. Victoria Chen, a name that still makes Alina's stomach tighten. And beside her, Marcus Webb, the billionaire real estate developer whose face appears on the cover of Forbes every other month, known for converting historic buildings into luxury condos and destroying their architectural heritage in the process. They're holding court near a massive installation of twisted metal that apparently represents late capitalism's decay, surrounded by a small entourage of hangers-on who laugh at everything Victoria says. Victoria's sharp eyes catch Alina as she approaches with a tray of canapés. Recognition flashes across Victoria's face, and her burgundy lips curl into something between a smile and a smirk. She's wearing a dress that costs more than Alina's monthly rent, her jewelry catching light with every gesture. Alina Torres. Victoria's voice cuts through the gallery's ambient music, loud enough to turn heads at nearby conversations. Several people pause mid-sentence, sensing something interesting about to unfold. Alina stops, her tray perfectly level despite the sudden attention. She gives a small, professional nod. Victoria, she says simply, setting down a small plate of prosciutto-wrapped figs on the nearby table. Victoria leans back against the gallery wall, her champagne glass tilted at a careless angle that speaks of old money confidence. "Oh my God, it really is you. What are you doing here playing Waitress?" Her tone is honey-sweet, but her eyes are cold, and she switches to Mandarin, her words dripping with theatrical pity. "This is tragic, isn't it?" A brilliant scholarship student, now serving cocktails. Alina keeps her expression neutral, adjusting the tray in her hands with careful precision. She responds in flawless Mandarin, her voice steady and low. "I'm helping a friend tonight, Victoria. Can I get you anything else?" The gallery seems to hold its breath. A few collectors nearby shift their weight, glancing over with curiosity and mild discomfort. An older woman in pearls frowns slightly, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Victoria laughs, a sharp sound that carries across the space, and turns to Marcus, who's watching with one eyebrow raised and an amused smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Marcus, sweetheart, you won't believe this. Alina was the star of our graduate program at NYU, always so serious about her studies, talking about Renaissance techniques and conservation ethics. She waves her hand dismissively, and now she's running around with a tray. How the mighty have fallen." Marcus, dressed in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit that screams wealth without effort, lets out a low chuckle. He looks at Alina like she's part of the gallery decor, interesting only as a curiosity. "Quite a career pivot," he says, his voice smooth and cold as marble. "Art history degree too, this." Alina's fingers tighten almost imperceptibly on the tray, but her face remains composed. She sets down another plate, her movements deliberate and graceful, and offers a small smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "It's honest work," she says quietly, switching back to English. Her words carry a subtle strength that makes one nearby collector lower his phone to watch. Victoria rolls her eyes dramatically, tossing her hair in a gesture Alina remembers from their studio days, always performing, always needing an audience. "Honest? Oh, Alina, don't be so noble about it, you're embarrassing yourself." She switches back to English, her volume increasing to ensure maximum coverage. "Didn't you used to talk about working at the Met? About authentication and preservation, and now you're, what, clearing plates at gallery openings? That's pathetic." The words are designed to wound, but Alina doesn't flinch. She pours sparkling water into a glass on their table, her hand absolutely steady, her dark eyes meeting Victoria's with a calm dignity that makes Victoria's smile falter for just a fraction of a second. The contrast is stark, Victoria's aggressive mockery against Alina's quiet composure. The other people in their circle, art dealers and collectors and the professionally wealthy, look uncomfortable. A man in a charcoal suit whispers something to his companion, his tone suggesting disapproval, though whether it's directed at Alina or Victoria isn't clear. The woman in pearls sets her glass down with a soft clink, her disapproval now unmistakable as she watches Alina's steady professionalism under fire. The gallery's atmosphere shifts, its elegant veneer clashing with the ugliness of Victoria's performance. Marcus leans forward, his smirk widening. "So, Alina, is this what you dreamed about in grad school, serving people like us?" His words are calculated to sting, and Victoria laughs again, delighted by his cruelty. Alina pauses for just a heartbeat, then straightens slightly. Her dark hair catches the gallery lights as she tilts her head, meeting Marcus's gaze directly. "I'm learning," she says, her Mandarin suddenly impeccable again, her accent revealing a depth Victoria had probably forgotten. "Service shows you a lot about people, about who they really are." There's a flicker in Marcus's expression, surprise perhaps or momentary curiosity, but Victoria jumps in before he can process it. "Learning? Come on, Alina, you're stuck. Don't pretend this is some enlightening experience. You aimed for the stars and landed in the basement." Her laughter rings out again, harsh and performative, and she waves her hand as if shooing Alina away. "Be a dear and get us more champagne, would you? That's what you're here for." Alina's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly, but her composure never cracks. She nods once, her expression professional, and turns toward the gallery's back service area. Her tray doesn't waver, her steps don't falter. Behind her, Victoria's laughter echoes through the space, joined by Marcus's quiet chuckle and a few weak laughs from their group. Other gallery visitors return to their conversations, but several keep glancing at Alina, their expressions a mixture of sympathy and respect for her restraint. The woman in pearls shakes her head slightly, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. A younger collector mutters something about unnecessary to his friend, who nods agreement. Alina pushes through the door into the gallery's staging kitchen, her red vest disappearing from the main floor. She sets her tray down on a stainless steel counter, her hands still perfectly steady, her face still carefully composed. She takes one slow, measured breath, her eyes focused and thoughtful, processing every word that was thrown at her. She's holding back not for herself, but for Mia. This is Mia's first major contract with this gallery, a relationship that could launch her catering business into the top tier of Manhattan events. Alina won't let Victoria's cruelty create a scene that could damage Mia's reputation or cost her this crucial client. That's why she's swallowing her pride, maintaining perfect professionalism, letting the insults roll off without retaliation. Back in the gallery, Victoria sips her champagne, still smirking, while Marcus leans back with his fingers drumming idly against his glass. The other guests in their circle try to move the conversation forward, discussing a nearby sculpture, but the air feels heavy, like everyone knows something fundamentally unfair just played out. Alina steps back onto the gallery floor carrying 2 bottles of champagne, one in each hand, her movements fluid and confident despite the long evening. Her vest is still crisp, her buns still tight. She approaches the table again, her expression calm and professional, but her eyes are sharp, taking in every detail. Victoria's smug smile, Marcus's cool, appraising stare. The way the others carefully avoid making eye contact with her directly, their discomfort visible. She pours carefully, not spilling a single drop, her hands demonstrating the same precision she uses when applying cleaning solutions to 400-year-old oil paintings. Victoria watches her like a cat watching a mouse, clearly enjoying herself. "You know," Victoria says, her voice carrying across the space again, "you're actually quite good at this, Alina. Maybe you've finally found your calling after all." The words are poison wrapped in silk, designed to cut deep, and a few people at nearby pedestals glance over, their faces showing discomfort at the ongoing cruelty. Alina finishes pouring and steps back, her tray tucked under her arm. "I'm glad you're enjoying the evening," she says, her voice soft but carrying an undertone of strength that makes Victoria's smile tighten momentarily. Her words are courteous, but there's steel beneath them. Marcus tilts his head slightly, his eyes narrowing as if he's seeing Alina in slightly different focus for just a moment, but Victoria doesn't let the moment breathe. She laughs louder this time, leaning toward Marcus conspiratorially but speaking at full volume. "Oh, she's glad we're enjoying ourselves, how gracious." Her voice drips with sarcasm and she waves her hand again in dismissal. "That's all, Alina, you can go now, run along." Alina nods, her face still calm, still professional, and turns away. Her posture is straight, her movements measured as she heads toward another cluster of guests to check on their needs. The gallery's ambient noise picks up again, conversations resuming, but the tension lingers like smoke. The woman in pearls catches Alina's eye as she passes and gives a subtle nod of approval, a small gesture of solidarity. The man in the charcoal suit shakes his head at his companion, clearly disgusted by what he's witnessed. Alina continues her work, refilling glasses, clearing abandoned plates from pedestals, offering napkins to guests with wine-stained fingers. Her quiet dignity stands in sharp contrast to the cruelty she's just endured, and several guests watch her with new interest, recognizing something in her composure that speaks to inner strength. Victoria's mocking laughter hangs in the air as Alina moves to the far side of the gallery. She can still hear it, can still feel the weight of those words, but she keeps moving, keeps working, keeps protecting Mia's business by refusing to create a scene, no matter how much Victoria pushes. She doesn't know that in exactly 14 hours, she'll walk into a boardroom where a painting's authenticity hangs in the balance, and where Victoria and Marcus will be sitting across the table, their 8-figure real estate deal dependent on Alina's expertise and her signature on a single document. But that revelation is coming tomorrow. Tonight, Alina just keeps serving. The morning arrives sharp and clear, Manhattan's skyline cutting geometric patterns against a cloudless sky. Alina stands in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of her tailored navy blazer. Her dark hair is styled in a professional low ponytail, her minimal makeup emphasizing competence over decoration. She looks nothing like the server from last night and everything like the expert she actually is. Today is massive. After 3 years of contract work and side projects, she's finally been hired as the lead authenticator for the Whitmore Institute, one of the country's most respected art conservation organizations. This is the job she's worked toward since her first undergraduate art history class, the position that validates every sacrifice, every student loan payment, every night spent studying pigment analysis and provenance research instead of sleeping. Her first assignment is already waiting, a high-stakes authentication for a private sale. The client needs confirmation that a painting attributed to a minor Dutch master is legitimate before completing a $50 million transaction. It's the kind of pressure cooker situation that could make or break her reputation in her very first week. Alina gathers her leather portfolio, checks that her analysis tools are properly packed, and heads out into the crisp morning. She has no idea what's waiting for her. No idea that last night's humiliation was merely the prologue to something far more significant. The Whitmore Institute occupies the 15th floor of a modern glass tower in Midtown, all clean lines and temperature-controlled examination rooms. Alina arrives 30 minutes early, her nerves humming with anticipation and preparation. She's reviewed the preliminary reports 3 times, studied the provenance documents, cross-referenced the style elements with known works from the same period and school. Patricia Whitmore, the Institute's director, a distinguished woman in her 60s with silver hair and an impeccable reputation, greets Alina in the lobby with a warm handshake. "Ready for your first day?" she asks, her smile genuine. "Absolutely," Alina says, and she means it. This is what she's built herself for. They walk together to the main conference room, Patricia explaining the situation as they move through halls lined with framed conservation success stories. The client is a real estate developer, Marcus Webb. He's purchasing the Kensington building on the Upper West Side, a historic property with a small private art collection in the penthouse that's part of the sale. The jewel of that collection is this alleged Van Mieris painting. He needs authentication before closing the deal this afternoon. Alina's stomach drops through the floor, Marcus Webb. She keeps her face professionally neutral through sheer force of will, but her heart is suddenly racing. Patricia doesn't notice, continuing her briefing as they approach the conference room's frosted glass doors. Mr. Webb has been, let's say, particular about this process, Patricia continues. He's bringing his art consultant, someone named Victoria Chen. I understand you two were in graduate school together. Alina's mouth goes dry. Yes, she manages, her voice steady despite the internal earthquake. We were. Excellent, having an existing professional relationship should smooth things over. Patricia pushes open the conference room door, and there they are. Marcus Webb sits at the head of the polished table, his suit different from last night but equally expensive, his expression all business. Victoria sits to his right, already mid-sentence about something, her designer dress a statement piece that probably cost more than Alina's entire wardrobe combined. The moment freezes. Victoria's eyes lock onto Alina, and her mouth actually drops open for a half-second before she recovers. Shock, confusion, and the beginning of horrified understanding flash across her face in rapid succession. Marcus's head turns, following Victoria's stare, and his expression shifts from polished. She takes one measured breath, composes her features into professional neutrality, and steps into the room. Patricia, oblivious to the undercurrents, makes introductions. Mr. Webb, Ms. Chen, this is Alina Torres, our new lead authenticator. She'll be handling your Van Mieris assessment. The room's tension is thick enough to choke on. Other executives present, Marcus's lawyers, the Whitmore Institute's legal counsel, the property sellers' representatives, glance around uncertainly, clearly sensing that something is off but unable to identify what. Marcus recovers first, his business instincts overriding his surprise. His jaw tightens and he shoots Victoria a sharp look that could cut glass. A word outside, he says to her, his voice low but carrying absolute authority. It's not a request, Victoria's face flushes. Marcus, I don't think. Now, he stands, his chair rolling back smoothly. He looks at Patricia and Alina with forced professionalism. Excuse us for one moment, Ms. Chen and I need to discuss something briefly. They step into the hallway, but the conference room's glass walls, though frosted, don't hide the shapes of their confrontation. Marcus's posture is rigid, his gestures sharp and controlled. Victoria's body language shifts from defensive to indignant to something approaching panic. Inside the room, Alina sets her portfolio on the table with steady hands and begins organizing her materials, her loupe, her UV light, her reference texts. She focuses on the work, on the reason she's here. The other executives make small talk about the weather, the building's history, anything to fill the uncomfortable silence. After 3 tense minutes, the door opens again. Marcus enters alone, his expression controlled but cold. He takes his seat and addresses Patricia directly. Ms. Chen won't be continuing with this meeting. She had a conflict arise. I'll be handling this assessment review personally. Victoria is gone, dismissed, removed from the very room where Alina is about to demonstrate exactly why last night's mockery was so catastrophically misguided. Alina allows herself one small, internal moment of satisfaction, then buries it completely. She's not here for revenge. She's here to do her job, to prove she belongs at this table, to authenticate a painting that might be worth $50 million. Shall we begin? Patricia says, and Alina nods. The painting is brought in on a specialized easel, secured behind protective glass. It's a small work, maybe 18 by 24 inches, depicting a woman reading a letter by candlelight in the style of Franz van Mieris the Elder. The brushwork is exquisite, the rendering of fabric and light showing real mastery. Alina approaches it with her loupe, examining the canvas weave, the craquelure patterns, the pigment application. The room falls silent as she works, everyone watching her methodical analysis. Marcus leans forward despite himself, his earlier amusement from last night completely absent, replaced by intent focus. She switches to her UV light, checking for restoration work and fluorescence patterns, takes detailed photographs with her macro lens, consults her reference materials, comparing specific technical elements to documented Van Mieris works. 20 minutes pass, then 30. Alina is completely absorbed in her work, her expertise taking over. This is where she's most comfortable, where doubt evaporates and confidence becomes absolute. She's forgotten the audience, forgotten last night, forgotten everything except the painting in front of her and the questions it poses. Finally, she straightens up. Every eye in the room fixes on her. "The good news," she says, her voice clear and authoritative, speaking in perfect English before switching to flawless Mandarin to address one of the seller's representatives who's been struggling with the technical terminology, is that the painting is absolutely genuine. The materials, techniques, and stylistic elements are entirely consistent with Van Mieris's documented work from approximately 1665. Relief ripples through the room. Marcus's shoulders relax fractionally. The seller's team exchanges satisfied looks. However, Alina continues and the room tenses again. There's significant restoration work that wasn't disclosed in the provenance documents. Someone in the last 50 years cleaned it aggressively and repainted portions of the background. It's still authentic, but its market value is impacted. I'd estimate it's worth 35 million in current condition, not 50. The room erupts into controlled chaos. Lawyers start talking over each other. The seller's representative looks stricken. Marcus's lawyer immediately begins typing notes. But Marcus himself is staring at Alina with an expression she can't quite read, surprise certainly, but also something approaching respect. He raises a hand and the room gradually quiets. "Can you prove this?" He asks her directly, his tone neutral but intense. "Absolutely," Alina says. She pulls up her documentation on her laptop, projecting images onto the conference room screen. Here, and here, you can see the pigment analysis shows modern synthetic compounds in these areas. The brushwork is competent but doesn't match Van Mieris's technique under magnification. And the UV fluorescence pattern shows clear distinction between original and restored sections. She walks them through it, point by technical point, her expertise undeniable. She fields questions from Marcus's lawyer about methodology. She explains nuances to Patricia, who's clearly impressed. She switches between English and Mandarin effortlessly when needed, ensuring everyone understands the implications. This isn't just competence, this is mastery. This is 3 years of brutal work, of studying until her eyes burned, of choosing research over social life, of building expertise molecule by molecule. And it's on full display now, undeniable and absolute. The irony isn't lost on her. Last night, Victoria dismissed her as a failed scholar reduced to service work. This morning, Alina's expertise is literally determining whether a $50 million deal will proceed. The meeting stretches toward 2 hours. There's back and forth about pricing, about whether to proceed with the purchase at all. Marcus's team argues for a price reduction. The seller's team scrambles to verify Alina's findings with their own experts. But Patricia Whitmore's reputation and Alina's thoroughness make disputing the authentication nearly impossible. Finally, Marcus makes a decision. We'll proceed at 35 million, contingent on further restoration work to be supervised by the Whitmore Institute. Ms. Torres will oversee the conservation process to ensure it's done properly. Alina keeps her expression professional, but internally, she's soaring. Her first day on the job, and she's not only completed a major authentication but secured an ongoing conservation project that could take months. It's a career-making start. As the meeting concludes and people begin gathering their materials, Marcus stands and approaches Alina directly. The room empties gradually, lawyers and executives filing out until it's just Marcus, Patricia, and Alina remaining. Patricia excuses herself tactfully. "I'll let you two discuss the conservation timeline. Alina, excellent work today, truly exceptional." She leaves, and suddenly Alina is alone with the man who laughed at her serving champagne less than 24 hours ago. Marcus is quiet for a moment, his fingers tapping against his portfolio, his expression harder to read now that the business mask has slipped slightly. When he speaks, his voice is lower, more private. "Ms. Tours, he begins, and there's something in his tone that wasn't there before, something that might be embarrassment or might be genuine recognition. I owe you an apology for last night. What I said was inappropriate and disrespectful. You're clearly exceptional at what you do, and I was wrong to make assumptions. Alina meets his gaze steadily, her composure complete. This is the moment she could gloat, could throw last night's cruelty back in his face. But that's not who she is, and it's not what this moment requires. Thank you, she says simply, her tone professional but firm. I appreciate that. There's weight in those 4 words, acknowledgement without forgiveness, dignity without surrender. She doesn't make it easy for him, doesn't absolve him with gracious platitudes. The apology hangs in the air, accepted but not forgotten. Marcus nods slowly, understanding that he's not going to get more than that, not today. I look forward to working with you on the conservation project, he says, retreating to safer professional ground. As do I, Alina says. She gathers her materials, closing her portfolio with a decisive snap. As she turns to leave, Patricia intercepts her in the hallway, her face alight with enthusiasm. Alina, that was masterful. The board is going to hear about this. I'm already thinking about our major Renaissance project coming up next quarter. I'd like you to lead it. Alina smiles, genuine and professional. I'd be honored. She walks through the Whitmore Institute's halls, past those framed conservation success stories, knowing that her own work will soon join them. Her phone buzzes with a text from Mia. How'd your first day go? Alina types back, I'll tell you over dinner, you won't believe it. She steps into the elevator, her reflection in the polished steel doors showing a woman in a power blazer, portfolio in hand, looking every inch the expert she's worked so hard to become. No more service vest, no more invisible movement through wealthy spaces. Just Alina Tours, lead authenticator, rising fast in a field where expertise and integrity matter more than status or wealth. The elevator descends, carrying her toward whatever comes next. Behind her, in that conference room, Marcus Webb sits alone for a moment, staring at the painting that revealed just how badly he misjudged the woman he dismissed. Last night, Alina was serving champagne while Victoria mocked her failed dreams. This morning, Alina held the power to make or break a $50 million deal with a few technical observations and one signature. Dignity and competence always find their way to the top. Always. The gallery where it all began still glows tonight, hosting another opening, another crowd of collectors pretending to understand art while actually calculating returns. But Alina isn't there. She's in her apartment, sharing takeout with Mia, telling the story that already feels impossible, laughing at the cosmic justice of timing. Tomorrow, she'll start the conservation project. She'll build her reputation one authenticated painting at a time. She'll rise through the field on merit and expertise, on late nights studying pigment chemistry and early mornings examining brushwork under magnification. And Victoria Chen? She's somewhere else tonight, probably trying to explain to Marcus why she didn't mention that the failed scholarship student she mocked was actually about to become the leading expert on whose opinion his entire deal depended. But that's Victoria's problem now. Alina is exactly where she belongs. That was today's story. If it moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who